Heinz Gown, an ordinary boy who found himself trapped inside a video game with SS rank powers. Luckily for Heinz though, but highly unfortunate for everyone else, his player is already maxed out and decided to use his cheating skills to save the world. Yeah, who am I kidding? He's a complete menace throughout the entire nations. From bringing back the dead, to casting level 10 tier magic with a blink of an eye. And you can't forget the squad of Midians that are more powerful than 99% of the entire world forces. If you ever thought to yourself, maybe that's going a bit too far, don't worry, Heinz will take it a step farther. As a massively loser online role-playing game takes place, also known as the MMORPG, called Yggdrasil, which was released in 2126. It quickly gained popularity in Japan, but after 12 years, the game is nearing its end due to low player activity. A group of heroes faces an army of skeleton monsters and manages to defeat them. However, their victory is short-lived when they encounter a group of opponents led by a powerful skeleton lord who easily defeats them with a single blow. Now Momonga, the skeleton lord, who is at level 100 and resides in the Great Tomb of Nazarick. He sits at a round table, having a conversation with another loser player, Hirohiro, who has been away for 2 years. Hirohiro expresses his admiration for Momonga's leadership in maintaining the guild and the tomb. However, he is too tired and decides to log out, as the other players are unavailable due to their busy real lives. Even though I guess you couldn't relate to that. As it is the last day of the server, Momonga decides to spend it alone. Hoping to meet the others somewhere else in the future, he takes a moment to reminisce about the memories he made with all the players. He picks up the guild weapon, the Staff of Heinz Gown, which was crafted by some of the players during their paid vacations. Sadly, out of the 41 members, everyone except this loser Momonga quit the game, choosing to focus on the real world. While exploring, Momonga comes across the NPCs, including Sebas and the combat maids of Pleiades. He commands them to follow him to the throne room, where he instructs them to stand by. Momonga takes a seat on the throne, accompanied by the strongest NPC of the tomb by his side. He accesses the settings of the NPC, which were created by Tabula, and his weird ass adds a feature to her that portrays her as deeply in love with himself, using his administrative powers. He then commands all the NPCs to bow down, reminiscent of the past times he had fun with his loser friends. However, Momonga realizes that something is wrong when the server does not shut down as expected. He is unable to access his console or use chat or GM calls. My teammates, an NPC standing beside him asks what's wrong and starts calling his name, which surprises Momonga as NPCs should not be able to talk. He tries to use all the in-game functions and realizes that they still work, but he cannot contact any admins or access his console. My teammates in games, the NPCs, respond to his orders, leaving Momonga in surprise. To assess the situation, Momonga orders Sebas to leave the tomb and confirm the surroundings. He also instructs the Pleiades to guard the 9th floor. Momonga becomes more confused as the NPCs follow his orders without specific commands. He even orders the strongest girl beside him to come closer, and he can feel her presence, smell her, check her pulse, and yes, even his weird self had to touch her. These experiences make him realize that this is part of real life. He then orders the NPCs to gather in the lightning arena on the 6th floor. Momonga teleports there using his ring and searches for the twin Dark Elves Guardians, which were set up by his friend Chegama. Oro arrives and calls Mare, who is hesitant to jump but eventually joins Momonga. They inquire about the legendary item in Momonga's hands, and he introduces it as a god artifact with power that surpasses god level. Momonga decides to test his magic and finds that he can summon a primal fire elemental simply by speaking its name, without needing to click any icons from the console. You think his magic can summon my dad? He instructs the twins to fight the elemental, with Aura using multiple attacks and Mare providing magical shields. Momonga attempts to contact the guild members but fails to do so. However, he manages to connect with Sebas, who informs him of a slight problem. Momonga orders all the guardians to gather, and the twins successfully defeat the elemental. The Guardians start introducing themselves to Momonga, starting with Shell-Tier Bloodfallen, Cocytus, Oro and Mare, Demarage, and the leader of all the Guardians, Albedo. They express their complete loyalty towards Momonga, the guild leader, by bowing their heads. Momonga, being a complete loser with no friends in the real world like yourself and nothing else to hold on to except work and sleep, decides to embrace the situation and accept their loyalty. Later on, Mare and Ora engage in an argument about Momonga, but their dispute is interrupted by Cocytus. It becomes evident that all of them are acting in a way that reflects the personalities given to them by Momonga's friends. After the shutdown of the RPG Yggdrasil, the game undergoes changes, allowing magic to be used and altering various rules. My teammates, the NPCs start moving and speaking on their own. Albedo and the others pledge to work hard and live up to the expectations of their master, and I'm pretty sure if some of my viewers were in this game, they would be down bad. Momonga informs everyone that the Great Tomb has been caught up in an unknown situation and he has sent Sebas on a survey. Sebas returns and reports that there are no buildings or creatures within a 1-kilometer radius, leading Momonga to realize that the tomb has been transported to an unknown place. He orders the creation of a stronger information system and fortification of defenses. Mare suggests covering the walls with dirt and vegetation to conceal the Great Tomb, which Momonga approves. Lastly, Momonga asks everyone what kind of person he is to them. Each expresses their gratitude, describing him as merciful, wise, loving, and caring. Albedo, in particular, expresses her love for him. Why is this man's living my dream? Momonga leaves the room, and the others discuss his kindness, finding him amazing and an absolute ruler. Meanwhile, Sheltier experiences a crisis of excitement, causing her underwear to be affected. However, Albedo and Sheltier began in a heated argument over Momonga and was about to end the series right there and then, to be honest. The others discuss the future of Nazarick, considering the possibility of Momonga having an heir. Cocytus contemplates being an uncle, and eventually, Sheltier and Albedo agrees that Albedo will be the head wife first. Albedo then begins explaining her useless plans to the others. Momonga attempts to swing a sword but begins to realize that it only fails due to his magic class stats. And now 3 days have passed since he arrived in this new world, and he realizes that he feels emotionally unstable at times. However, he doesn't experience hunger or the need to sleep. He acquires a powerful suit of swordsman armor, which allows him to easily attack with his sword. He also discovers that whatever items he creates by magic are pretty usable. He decides to go for a walk alone on the first floor to breathe some fresh air. Suddenly, he encounters demons named Jealousy, Avarice, and Wrath. Demiurge arrives, and the demons bow down, recognizing Momonga as the only one who can teleport through the floors. Momonga informs them that he is going to take a walk for a while. Demiurge suggests that he should at least take one of them with him, and not to pull an Alucard on his walk. If I know you not. During his walk, Momonga is captivated by the clear sky adorned with numerous stars. He wears a bracelet of wings and flies towards the moon. Demiurge reverts to his original form. Momonga enjoys the breathtaking view of the moon and the glittering stars, which resemble a box of jewels. He shares his intention of finding a box of treasures to adorn Nazarick and his friends for mines. Demiurge assures him that all forces will be mobilized to retrieve it. Momonga expresses his desire to conquer the world, shocking Demiurge. He decides to spread the name of Ain's wool gown. Suddenly, he notices dirt approaching the walls of Nazarick as Mare uses his skills to conceal them. Momonga decides to go and appreciate Mare's work, rewarding him with the ring of Ain's gown, granting him freedom to move within the limits of Nazarick. Mare expresses his determination to work even harder for Momonga and asks about his attire. Albedo arrives and begins extolling Momonga's greatness. However, being the menace she is, Albedo is a bit jealous upon seeing the ring in Mare's hands. Momonga gifts her with a ring as well, and instructs Demiurge to prepare one for him on another day. He leaves, and Albedo shouts with excitement. Later, a group of soldiers led by the head warrior Gazef head towards a village on horseback. The village has been attacked by a group known as the Baharuth Knights, and the king has ordered them to investigate and eliminate the attackers. 50 soldiers have been dispatched for this mission, but one soldier identifies it as a trap and suggests returning to Erantal to avoid losing the most powerful swordsman. The head warrior, however, holds hope for powerful nobles or adventurers to come and save them, despite no one appearing previously. Gazef expresses his dumb motivation to protect the weak. But let's all be honest, if we see Ain's, we're dipping like my father. Meanwhile, in the Tomb of Nazarick, Momonga watches the surroundings using a magic mirror and tries to figure out how to use it with the help of Sebas. They search for areas where they might find people. While observing, Momonga witnesses a group of warriors brutally eliminating innocent people in a village. He calmly watches the scenes unfold, but feels no inclination to save the people. However, memories of his past friend Touchsan, who saved him from online players, resurface. Touchsan had intervened to help someone in trouble. After reconsidering the situation, Momonga decides to go to the village to save it and test his own strength. He orders Sebas to raise the security level of Nazarick and send skilled soldiers to assist. He also instructs Sebas to inform Albedo to join him fully armed. As a soldier is about to eliminate a mother and her daughter, a gate suddenly opens in front of them, and Momonga arrives. He eliminates one of the soldiers using Heart Grasp magic, a powerful 9th tier spell, and another with Dragon Lighten, a 5th tier magic. Momonga creates a soldier as a Death Knight using magic and orders it to eliminate the attacking knights. He then runs towards them, and Albedo arrives fully armored. Momonga offers a healing potion to the injured mother, who initially resists, mistaking it for blood. Albedo attempts to eliminate them, but Momonga stops her and orders her to lower her weapon. The mother eventually takes the healing potion, quickly healing herself. Momonga introduces himself as a magic caster and creates a protective wall around them. He gives them a pair of horns, which can be blown to summon an army of goblins if they are attacked. The mother and daughter express their gratitude for saving them, and Momonga reveals his name as Ainz Gaun. Meanwhile, the soldiers have taken control of the villagers and are attempting to eliminate them. However, the Death Knight arrives and starts slaughtering the soldiers with powerful blows. It also eliminates Chief Blues. The soldiers try various strategies to defeat the Death Knight but fail. Momonga appears with a mask on his face, ordering the Death Knight to stop. He introduces himself and instructs all the soldiers to run and inform their leader about him, warning them to dismantle their kingdom. The grateful villagers bow their heads in thanks. Later, Momonga gathers information about this world from the village chief and his wife. They provide details about the surrounding kingdoms, including the Re-Esti's kingdom, the Baharuth Empire, and the slain theocracy. Momonga learns that the attacking soldiers were from the Baharuth Empire, aiming to create enmity between the Re-Esti's kingdom and their empire. The nearest city to the village is Erantal, where adventurers usually hunt goblins and monsters for rewards. Momonga decides to go to the city to gather more information. While the villagers mourn the loss of their loved ones who died in the attack, Momonga contemplates using the Wand of Resurrection to revive them all. However, he refrains from doing so to avoid unnecessary trouble. He is satisfied with saving the village. As he walks, Momonga considers spreading the news of the village's rescue under the name of Ainz Gaun. He wonders if there are any other Yggdrasil players in this world and where they might be. As they prepare to leave, Albedo displays rudeness towards a human. But Momonga stops her and advises treating humans with both calamity and kindness. Momonga encounters another problem as the chief discusses a group of knights approaching the village once again. Momonga orders all the villagers to stay at home and positions himself with Albedo and the chief to face the knights. Suddenly, a soldier brings news of unknown figures approaching the village. The king of the slain kingdom orders their head priest to eliminate Gaze of Stranolf, the strongest warrior of the Re-Esti's kingdom. The head priest is given a treasured item containing the miracle of gods and mobilizes their units for the attack. Momonga and Gazef discuss the situation and realize that the monsters from Yggdrasil have also appeared. Gazef offers his services to Momonga, but Momonga refuses, thanking Gazef for his gratitude and assuring him that he will protect the villagers. Gazef heads towards the enemies, leaving the village and planning to create an opening for the villagers to escape. He attacks with his army of soldiers, eliminating many angels, but they continue to respawn. Gazef uses his focus battle aura and eliminates more angels, but they persist due to the magic casters. The magic casters focus their attention on Gazef, and the army returns to engage in the fight again. They fight with multiple attacks, but Gazef spots the head priest and targets him. Despite his efforts, the head priest keeps spawning more angels, leaving Gazef feeling frustrated. The people of the village are scared, witnessing Gazef fighting against the overwhelming magic casters. Gazef falls after a direct attack, but he stands back up with patriotism and motivation to protect his kingdom. The head priest believes Gazef's determination is foolish and assures him that his death will be painless. Gazef smiles with a sense of irony, revealing that someone stronger than him is in the village, calling the head priest a fool. The head priest prepares to eliminate Gazef, but Momonga intervenes. Suddenly, Gazef disappears, and Momonga takes his place. The villagers and chief are shocked, and Gazef, holding the item given by Momonga, becomes unconscious with a smile. Meanwhile, Momonga introduces himself as Ainz Gaun to the people of the slain kingdom. He declares his opposition to the entire army of magic casters. Momonga demonstrates a bit of his power by easily eliminating two angels that attack him directly with their swords, leaving everyone in shock. Ainz warns the people to offer their lives without resistance and threatens them with a painful death if they refuse. The magic casters launch low-level magic attacks against Ainz, but he remains unfazed. One magic caster makes a direct hit, but Albedo swiftly beheads him. The head priest then attempts to use Principality Observation, but Ainz stops the angel's attack with his bare hands and destroys it with Hell Flame, a powerful spell. The head priest uses a Yggdrasil item, a crystal that seals magic other than top-tier spells. Ainz orders Albedo to protect him as the head priest spawns a big angel, their strongest trump card. However, Ainz dismisses it as child's play and the battle continues. The head priest commands the angel to use Holy Smite, a 7th-tier magic attack against Ainz, but Ainz remains unharmed. Ainz counters by making the angel disappear using his black hole magic, demonstrating his power surpassing even demons. A glass breaks in the sky, indicating someone had been watching the battle using information magic. Ainz activates his defense barrier, knowing they haven't seen the full extent of his power. The head priest starts begging for his life, offering rewards to Ainz, but Albedo dismisses them as lower life forms. Ainz, being fed up with the BS, removes his mask like a menace and takes their lives. On their way back, Albedo is impressed by Ainz's composure and asks him about saving the humans. Ainz explains that they must move forward, considering the enemy stronger than themselves. He used the humans as pawns to understand the strength of their enemies. Albedo expresses her love towards Ainz. Later, in the tomb of Nazarick, Ainz apologizes to everyone for acting on his own and announces that his name is now Ainz ul Gaun. He instructs everyone to call him Ainz. Albedo and others pledge their loyalty to their leader, ensuring that everyone in this world will know his greatness and calling him the ruler of death, the Overlord. Ainz aims to spread his name in the hope of reaching any friends who may come to this world. Later, Albedo provides Ainz with updates regarding the reports on their surroundings while they search for any Yggdrasil players. Aura expands the area of surveillance to include the great woodlands near Nazarick. It is revealed that the man they captured earlier was Nigun, the commander of the Special Ops Unit for the Sumlit Scripture of the Slain Theocracy. Ainz identifies the Slain Theocracy as a nation that believes humans must unite against all other races. He commands Albedo not to contact them for now, in order to avoid creating a negative image in Karn village. Ainz appreciates Albedo's work, and Albedo expresses her love towards him. Ainz clarifies that the feelings Albedo has for him are a result of his influence, and Albedo is content with that. Ainz reveals that he made a mistake with Tabulous Settings, the friend who created Albedo. Albedo replies that her father will forgive Ainz for marrying her, once again showing her love. Suddenly, Sheltier arrives and Albedo and Sheltier engage in an argument. Ainz intervenes and tells them to stop, and Sheltier leaves, mentioning her unavailability for a short time. Later, in the fortress city Erental, Ainz and Nabe arrive at a hotel bar and ask for a room for two. The cost is 7 pieces for one night. As they head towards the room, a man obstructs their path, but Ainz easily surpasses him and accidentally throws him towards a girl holding a healing potion, causing it to break. The girl becomes angry and upset since she had saved up to buy the potion. Nabe tries to eliminate her, but Ainz compensates the girl with a red healing potion, which satisfies her. Nabe and Ainz discuss staying in a low-profile place. Ainz explains that they need to be undercover as young adventurers to gain knowledge about the world and gather information. He instructs Nabe to refer to him as Mammon in the city to keep their identities hidden. They also face the issue of running out of money, so they decide to find a job first to earn money while using the gold they brought from Yggdrasil, without revealing their origins. Meanwhile, the girl with the red potion goes to sell it to a pharmacist in Erental. An old lady judges the potion and confirms its authenticity, stating that no one has been able to make it until now. The potion is equivalent to a second-tier healing spell and is valued at 8 gold pieces. Upon hearing this, the girl becomes extremely happy and changes her mind about selling it due to its rarity. Ainz looks at the job postings on the notice board, and people continue to talk about his armor. He selects a job but is informed by a servant that it is only for mithril-plate adventurers, while Ainz is a copper-plate adventurer. Ainz tries to meet the requirements by introducing Nabe as a third-tier magic caster and himself as a warrior on par with her, but the servant declines their request. Ainz then requests the hardest quest available for a copper-ranked adventurer. Suddenly, a group of guys approaches them and asks Ainz and Nabe to join their clan called the Swords of Darkness. The clan members introduce themselves as Peter Mock, Luckervolv, Dianwood Wonder, and Ninya the Spellcaster. Ninya is a talent holder, a child born with an affinity for magic, which impresses Ainz. They mention another famous talent holder in the city named Balar Sheep, the grandson of a famous pharmacist, whose talent allows him to use all magic items. Ainz finds this information dangerous. The clan explains their job to eliminate monsters near the city of Erental, with a reward from the guild. The whole clan sees it as their daily routine in a win-win situation. Ainz agrees to join them and reveals his illusionary face. One of the clan members expresses her love for Nabe, but receives a rude reply and is stopped by their leader. As they are about to leave, a servant suddenly approaches with a job request from Balar. Nabe moves forward to protect Ainz, but he stops her and decides to consider the request after they finish the job with the clan. Balar introduces himself and shares his plan to go to Karn village to gather herbs, asking Ainz to guard him. Ainz finds it troublesome but inquires why Balar specifically requested him, as he had just arrived in town. Balar explains that he heard about Ainz defeating higher-ranked adventurers at the hotel, and he wanted to try someone new and hire a cheaper copper-plate-ranked adventurer. They decide to go immediately. In another scene, a girl dressed unusually, a past member of the Black Scripture, enters a basement resembling a cave. She meets Khajiit and buys him a crown of wisdom, which is proof of a shaman princess. It is an item that emits high-level magic. She asks Khajiit for help in accessing the item to capture a talent holder in the city who can use any magic item. In exchange, she offers to help Khajiit with his ritual, and he agrees. As Ainz, Nabe, and the others continue their journey towards Karn village while protecting Balar, they take a break near a lake to drink water and refresh the horses. Peter warns Ainz that things will get dangerous ahead, and Ainz realizes that he cannot use a lot of magic while inside his armor, so he plans to fight as a warrior. Nabe will use 5th tier magic if necessary, and if that's not enough, Ainz will take the situation more seriously. The area they are in is known as the Wise King of the Forest, and Balar explains that it is inhabited by a mighty creature, a silver, 4-legged being with a snake-like tail, who is wise and capable of using magic, which intrigues Ainz. Meanwhile, in the Tomb of Nazarick, Demiurge visits Ainz's room and finds Albedo enjoying herself with a body pillow she made for Ainz. It turns out that she has been knitting pillows and socks for their future child as well. While Ainz finds the clan's magic interesting, he also notices that their technology is of a medieval level, and the sophistication of their magic astonishes him. Luckrat starts teasing Nabe again, calling Ainz and Nabe lovers, which excites Nabe and leads her to talk about Albedo. Ainz interrupts her and tells Luckrat not to interfere in their personal lives. Peter apologizes on Luckrat's behalf, and suddenly they hear sounds of monsters approaching. Peter points out the direction from where they are coming, and Ainz orders Balar to stay in the cart while the others prepare to fight. Ainz decides to take on all the monsters himself, instructing the others to take care of Balar. Everyone joins the battle, with Ainz using his twin big swords to deliver powerful blows, leaving everyone in shock. The others fight goblins and other monsters, and when the bigger monsters try to escape, Ainz orders Nabe to stop them, which he does with a lightning attack. The monsters are easily defeated, and one of the clan members starts collecting some of their parts to submit to the guild for rewards. The clan is impressed with Ainz and Nabe's skills, considering them to be as skilled as royal head warriors. Ainz, being the nice soul he is, appreciates their teamwork. During dinner that night, Ainz contemplates how to escape the situation since he cannot eat or sleep due to his skeletal body. He shares a pre-made religious theory with everyone, stating that they shouldn't eat for a few days after eliminating someone to escape suspicion. He then asks about the origin of the name Swords of Darkness for their team. Peter explains that it comes from the 13 heroes, and the Swords of Darkness are 4 of those heroes. Their ultimate goal as a clan is to find those swords. Each member shows a symbol of a small sword to represent their allegiance. Ainz reflects on his past, when he was weak and alone until a white holy knight saved him and led him to his comrades. He considers them to be wonderful allies and friends and cannot forget the days he spent with them. Minyu assures Ainz that he will find those allies again somewhere, but Ainz responds with disappointment, believing that day will never come. He leaves the conversation with Nabe, and Ninya feels a bit saddened by his response. Dane suggests that Ninya should paint over what he said, knowing the pain of losing loved ones as well. They shift the conversation towards discussing Ainz's strengths and his battle against the monsters. The conversation then turns to Balar, who reveals his interest in a woman from Karn village. On the other side, Clementine, the girl from the Black Scripture, continues to eliminate people in her search for a pharmacist with a rare talent. She tortures information sellers, and Khajiit uses his undead magic to revive the soldiers they eliminated. Khajiit has been preparing for years to turn the city of Erental into a city of death using a spiral of death, which would transform the entire city into a pit of undead. He plans to become immortal through this process and warns Clementine that if she causes more trouble, he will eliminate her. Clementine attempts a non-serious sword attack, but Khajiit easily defends against it. Mamon's team arrived at Karn village and encountered Enri Emad along with her group of goblins. The goblins initially tried to attack them, but Enri intervened and informed them that Mamon's team were her friends. Enri explained to Enfira the reason behind the village's strong defenses and mentioned her encounter with Ainz, who had given her a magical red liquid that healed her. She also mentioned Albedo, which led Enfira to deduce that Mamon was actually Ainz. The scene shifted to Ainz, who stood with Narbril, observing how the people of the village had grown stronger with the help of the goblins. Enfira approached Ainz and asked if he was Momonga, expressing his gratitude for the red potion Ainz had given them. He requested Ainz to teach him how to make it so he could help others. Ainz agreed to teach him the magic but needed some time to consider, as the magic could also be used for evil purposes. Enfira apologized to Ainz for tricking him, and Ainz advised him not to reveal his true identity to anyone. Narbril arrived after Enfira left and overheard the conversation. She asked for forgiveness, feeling responsible for revealing Ainz's true identity, and even considered taking her own life as a result. However, Ainz stopped her and assured her that there was no need for such drastic measures. The scene shifted to the forest where the Wise King resided, and the group prepared to go there. Ainz decided to take only Narbril with him because of her strong magic abilities. They ventured into the forest to gather herbs, and Ainz planned to tame the Wise King of the forest with the assistance of Aura. However, Ainz felt disappointed when they discovered that the wise king was actually a massive hamster. Surprisingly, Ainz managed to tame the hamster easily, without much effort. After successfully taming the giant hamster, Enfira expressed his desire to join Mamon's adventurer team. However, Mamon politely declined the offer. Instead, Mamon proposed that he would take on the responsibility of protecting the village. Once their tasks in the village were complete, Mamon and the group returned to Erantal. Enfira and the Swords of Darkness began unpacking the herbs at Barriera's house, while Mamon and Nay went to the Adventurers Guild to register Hamsuk. Meanwhile, inside Barriera's house, a surprising encounter awaited Enfira as Clementine appeared before him with the intention to kidnap him. In a shocking turn of events, Clementine abruptly appears before Enfira, preparing to abduct him. The members of the Swords of Darkness realize the imminent danger and try to create a distraction, allowing Enfira and Ninja an opportunity to escape. Unfortunately, their escape route is blocked by Kajiat, resulting in a tragic outcome where all the members of the Swords of Darkness lose their lives. After successfully registering Hansuk at the Adventurers Guild, Mamon's group encounters Lizzie, who offers to guide them to her house. However, upon arrival, they are met with a horrifying sight. The Swords of Darkness have been transformed into zombies. Acting swiftly, Mamon and the others eliminate the zombified members. With the immediate threat neutralized, Mamon begins to investigate the true motives behind this incident, focusing on Enfira as a potential target. Mamon suggests to Lizzie that she should hire his services to rescue her grandson. Recognizing the urgency and sincerity in his request, Lizzie agrees to employ Mamon's assistance. In order to locate Enfira's whereabouts, Mamon instructs Nabe to use a locator scroll, a powerful magical item that can track a specific person. While investigating the situation, Mamon discovers a formidable undead army gathered at the cemetery. Realizing the immense danger it poses, Mamon understands the need to warn the townspeople and the Adventurers Guild about the impending threat. He urgently tasks Lizzie with informing the residents and guild members, emphasizing the importance of preparing for the approaching undead peril. The undead army launches a relentless assault on the gates of Erantal. The city guards valiantly attempt to defend the entrance, but they soon find themselves overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of the advancing undead. The defenders struggle to hold their ground as the enemy's forces continue to overpower them. Mamon's group arrives and fights their way through the undead horde. Along the way, they encounter the members of Zeranorn, who are in the midst of performing a dangerous ritual known as the Death Spiral within the city. Mamon decides to leave Nabe to confront Kajiat while he and Clementine move to a different location to continue their confrontation. Mamon reassures Clementine that he doesn't need to fight her with full seriousness, and their duel commences. Kajiat insults Nabe, calling her a fool, and summons a skeletal dragon that is resistant to magic. Nabe unsheathes her sword and effortlessly defeats the dragon with a single strike, leaving Kajiat completely shocked. He recreates the dragon and uses multiple spells on it. He then attempts to attack Nabe directly with a spell, but she had already cast a shield spell, frustrating him. In response, Kajiat channels negative energy to empower the dragon even further. The dragon becomes stronger and launches an attack on Nabe. Kajiat is astounded when Nabe stops the dragon's assault with her bare hands, revealing her incredible physical strength. Nabe informs him that she was created by supreme beings who surpass even gods. The scene shifts to the battle between Mamon and Clementine, which intensifies. Clementine's speed poses a challenge for Mamon, but he gradually learns to anticipate her fighting style. However, due to time constraints, Mamon realizes he can no longer hold back. He shouts, "Narbril Gamma, show them the power of Nazarick." The scene shifts back to Nabe, who hears her master's command to unleash the power of Nazarick and transforms from Nabe to Narbril Gamma. Kajiat is shocked as Nabe utilizes flying magic and dons a beautiful armor. The skeletal dragon, which can resist magic of level 6 or lower, is unable to nullify her attacks. Using a 7th tier spell called Twin Maximize Magic, Chain Dragon Lightning, she effortlessly defeats both dragons and Kajiat. Meanwhile, Clementine launches a strong indirect strike at Mamon, imbued with elemental power, and manages to stab him in both eyes. However, Mamon swiftly grabs her tightly with one arm, revealing his true identity as an overlord. He taunts Clementine for being defeated by a magic caster who didn't even use his magic against her, tormenting her further. Mamon decides to give her a nice happy hug between his wonderful arms, but it somehow ends her life in a slow and such a non-painful way. Ainz proceeds to rescue Enfira and destroys the Crown of Wisdom. Mamon returns triumphantly with Nabe, Hamsuk, and Enfira, having successfully resolved the cemetery incident in Erantal. At the inn, Ainz feels a sense of disappointment regarding his recent promotion alongside Nabe. He had hoped they would be promoted to the Orichalcum rank. However, he finds solace in the knowledge that as long as his heroic name spreads far and wide, he can find satisfaction. Ainz contacts Albedo, who urgently informs him of Sheltir Bloodfallen's betrayal against Nazarick. In the town of Erantal, a young woman staying at an inn causes a scene when she expresses dissatisfaction with her meal. Little does anyone know that the young lady is actually Solution Epsilon, and she and Sebastian are posing as members of a noble family from the Baharuth Empire. However, their hired helper, Zack, betrays them and leads them into an ambush by a group of mercenaries waiting outside the city. While traveling in a carriage towards Riestais, Solution Epsilon, Sebastian, and Sheltir Bloodfallen, accompanied by her two vampire brides, engage in a brief conversation about their creators and Ainz. Their discussion is abruptly interrupted by a commotion outside. The death-spreading brigade has surrounded them and becomes both excited and terrified upon recognizing Sheltir. However, their excitement quickly turns to horror as Sheltir and her vampire companions ruthlessly slaughter the bandits. Solution manages to capture Zack, absorbing him into her form. Afterwards, Sheltir and her minions bid farewell to the group and set off to pursue the remaining bandits and uncover their hideout. At the bandits' hideout, Sheltir encounters Brain on Glass, who challenges her to a fight. Despite Brain's impressive skills and efforts, he struggles to land even a single blow on Sheltir. Sheltir's comments on his martial arts prowess deeply wound Brain's ego, causing him to flee. Realizing that the time for games is over, Sheltir reveals her true vampire form and resumes her merciless massacre of the bandits. Sensing the presence of individuals outside the base, she investigates and discovers a group of adventurers. Sheltir mercilessly eliminates all of them, except for Brita, who manages to save herself from certain death by using a potion provided by Mammon. Sheltir employs her mind control abilities on Brita to extract information about the source of the potion. However, upon hearing Brita's explanation, Sheltir becomes perplexed and decides to spare her, suspecting that this turn of events may be part of Ainz's grand plan. Furthermore, Sheltir is shocked to learn that an adventurer has been sent back to Erantal. Fueled by anger and a sense of neglect, she takes flight and summons several vampire wolves to track down the adventurer. However, all the wolves are swiftly eliminated, prompting Sheltir to investigate the cause. She discovers a new group lying in wait, and faced with this new adversary, Sheltir launches a fierce assault, transforming into her monstrous form. With her powerful Spewit lance in hand, she initiates an attack, only to be skillfully blocked by the leader of the group. Seizing the opportunity, the leader commands an elderly woman among them to activate her dress. The magic of the dress glows, and a beam of light shoots directly at Sheltir. As Sheltir feels her thoughts being manipulated, she quickly counterattacks, illuminating the person attempting to control her and their bodyguard. In the throne room of the Great Tomb of Nazarick, Ainz utilizes powerful magic to observe Sheltir Bloodfallen from a distance. He expresses frustration at having to rely on such potent items to address this problem. Unexpectedly, he receives a brief message from Narbril Gamma, informing him that he has been summoned by the Erantal Adventurers Guild regarding the discovery of Sheltir. In Erantal, disguised as Mammon, Ainz attends a meeting organized by the Guildmaster, Pluton Einsach. The meeting is attended by 3 other Mithril-ranked adventurer teams, Rainbow, Skywolf, and Kralbra. They have all been assembled to address the vampire issue. Ainz, aiming to minimize the impact of Sheltir's appearance, fabricates a story in which he claims to be familiar with the vampire, referring to her as Hanyok, and asserts that he has been actively pursuing her. Additionally, he reveals possession of a sealing crystal containing a powerful 8-tier spell, which he plans to employ. Mammon insists that darkness will confront Hanyok alone, emphasizing that involving additional individuals will only result in more casualties. Most participants in the room agree to Ainz's conditions, except for Igvarj from Kralbra, who insists that his team must join Mammon in the battle against the vampire. Reluctantly, Ainz accepts Igvarj's demand. However, during their journey to Sheltir's location, Igvarj is defeated and eliminated by Mayor Bellofior, one of Ainz's friends. Ainz and Albedo continue their advance towards Sheltir, with Ainz revealing his magical ring named Shooting Star. He hopes that the wish-granting power of the ring will reverse the mind control on Sheltir. To his surprise, the magic of the ring fails to work, leading Ainz to panic and order a retreat. He teleports himself and Albedo to a safer location. Albedo tries to inquire about the situation, but Ainz experiences a fit of rage. However, his undead nature helps him regain control, and he calms down, explaining to Albedo that the divine item's magic had no effect on Sheltir's mind control. He reveals that only world items possess the power to counter it. Initially believing there were no world items in the new world, Ainz urgently instructs Albedo to accompany him to the treasury to retrieve the world items stored there. In the treasury, Ainz and Albedo are accompanied by Yuri Alpha. As they reach the entrance to the inner sanctum, Ainz opens the gate and they encounter a humanoid octopus-like creature. Albedo mistakes it for her creator, Tabula Smaragdina, but quickly corrects herself upon realizing it is an imposter. This imposter is revealed to be Pandora's actor, a doppelganger serving as the area guardian of the treasury. Pandora's actor introduces himself and deduces their purpose, offering his assistance in retrieving the world items. Feeling embarrassed by Pandora's actor's playful behavior, Ainz privately requests him to act seriously and refrain from unnecessary antics. To emphasize his point, Ainz presents Pandora's actor with his own Ring of Ainz wool gown. Ainz then instructs Albedo to give her ring to Yuri and directs both of them to accompany him to the mausoleum. Within the mausoleum, Ainz reveals the presence of the Avatara, golem statues crafted in the likeness of each of the supreme beings. He explains that these statues serve as a tribute and memorial to his fellow comrades, as well as a secure storage space for their belongings. Ainz informs Albedo that one day there will be a statue of himself among them. Albedo, fearing that Ainz might leave them, pleads for him to stay with Nazarick indefinitely. Ainz cannot make that promise and instead entrusts Albedo with the responsibility of leading Nazarick and the other floor guardians if he is gone. Ainz informs Albedo of his decision to confront Sheltier alone, despite her objections. He states that it is his duty and expresses his desire to prevent his subordinates from fighting amongst themselves. Witnessing his unwavering determination, Albedo insists that he make one promise to her, to return safely. Upon reaching the designated location, Ainz commands Ora Bellafiora and Mare Bellafior to split up and search the area using their respective world items, the depiction of nature and society, and avarice and generosity. He instructs them to scout for any unwelcome intruders. Meanwhile, Demiurge returns to the Great Tomb of Nazarick and meets with Cocytus and Albedo. Curious about the situation, Demiurge learns that Ainz intends to confront Sheltier Bloodfallen alone. Albedo firmly expresses her belief in Ainz's inevitable victory, while Demiurge expresses concern for his master's safety. He reminds Albedo of her past criticism when Ainz went to Erantil to become an adventurer. Demiurge desires to support Ainz but is stopped by Cocytus, who received direct orders from Ainz to prevent any interference. Demiurge reluctantly agrees to Cocytus' decision, but not without asserting that if Ainz were to fall, he expects Albedo to step down from her position as Overseer Guardian. Surprisingly, Albedo accepts this demand, still maintaining her unwavering faith in Ainz's abilities and his safe return. Ainz arrives at the location where Sheltier is in standby mode, sensing the perfect opportunity to engage in battle. He enhances his abilities by casting spells that boost his stats and equips quick-change items to adapt swiftly to various situations. Finally, he readies himself to unleash the devastating power of super-tier magic, Fallen Down. As the spell nears completion, its tremendous force inflicts massive damage, leaving behind a vast crater where the floor guardian once stood. However, Sheltier reveals that she is not only equipped with Spewit Lance but also wearing her resilient Valkyrie armor. Though seemingly undamaged, she acknowledges that Ainz's attack did cause some harm. Now, she prepares to retaliate against her master, readying herself for an offensive assault. A fierce battle ensues, accompanied by verbal taunts and powerful attacks from both sides. Initially, Sheltier gains the upper hand, but Ainz utilizes his experience to strategically turn the tide. Unwilling to be outdone, Sheltier summons her Einer Jar, a physical double that adds complexity to the fight. Yet, Ainz cleverly counters the combined assault and manages to defeat the duplicate. The surroundings brighten, only to reveal a vast sandy expanse. However, to Ainz's surprise, Sheltier remains unharmed by this devastating attack. She taunts him, asking if he has any last words. Refusing to admit defeat, Ainz maintains his confidence and declares that Sheltier was careless in her actions. He boldly claims that everything is proceeding according to his grand plan. As Ainz calmly faces Sheltier, he expresses gratitude towards her overconfidence, which allows him to execute his plan. Sheltier begins to suspect that Ainz has been deceiving her all along, realizing that he possessed knowledge of her abilities from the start. Ainz, adorned in shiny silver armor recognized as Touchme's, counterattacks and inflicts a deep wound on Sheltier with his katana, Take Mikazuchi Mk8. Boasting that he possesses the combined power of all 41 supreme beings, Ainz overwhelms Sheltier with a series of attacks using various divine weapons. When Sheltier manages to pierce Ainz with her Spewit Lance, she believes victory is within reach, but she is surprised by a voice coming from Ainz's watch. Ainz declares the battle over, enraging Sheltier. who continues her assault. However, she is caught off guard by a skill activated by an unknown source. As Ainz prepares to unleash his powerful super-tier magic, Shell-tier charges forward, aiming for a fatal blow. However, her attention is diverted by the activation of a skill, allowing Ainz to complete his spell. Shell-tier is consumed by oblivion, admitting defeat to her master in her final moments. Ainz then informs Mayor Bellofior about Shell-tier's situation and returns to Nazarick to revive her. The other floor guardians remain cautious, fearing that Shell-tier may still be under the influence of mind control even after resurrection. Preparations are made to restrain her if necessary. When Shell-tier is successfully revived, she discovers a gap in her memory and realizes her breast pads are missing, much to the annoyance of her colleagues. Ainz assumes responsibility for the events that transpired and reflects on the time he spent with his comrades. Recognizing the need to enhance their power in the face of potential threats, Ainz learns from Albedo that Nazarick has discovered the Great Lake, the domain of the Lizardmen. Months later, Darkness is promoted within the Adventurers Guild, and Enfira and Lizzie settle in Karn Village, receiving a warm welcome from Henri Emma and Lupus Regina Beta. Elsewhere, Gaze of Stranoth encounters a despondent Brain on Glaus in the city, and in the Slain Theocracy, the leader of the Black Scripture reports their encounters with a powerful vampire to the 6 cardinals. Although concerned, they emphasize the importance of being cautious towards anyone capable of defeating such a formidable creature. Realizing their reduced strength, the cardinals propose sending a team to gather information and monitor the area. They believe that caution and knowledge can compensate for their weakened state. As Mammon, Ainz prepares for another adventure, asking Shell-tier to activate Gargantua before leaving the guild. Now the captain of the Black Scripture is walking down a hallway after a meeting when he comes across a tiny, strong-looking girl. They discuss the recent mission the Black Scripture returned from and how they encountered a mysterious undead. In a cave, a dragon awakens from its slumber after detecting someone nearby. The dragon is revealed to be Platinum Dragon Lord, and the person he detected was his old friend, Rigrit Burz Koral. The two discuss how Rigrit passed on the magic items she received from the Dragon Lord to a young one. In the Riesti's kingdom, the king and the nobles are discussing some important kingdom matters. They are greeted by the appearance of the king's daughter, Princess Renner, and her guard Climb. After exchanging a few words of affection, the two pairs separate. The king asks Gazef of the character of the man who saved him, Ainz Ulgaun. Gazef vouches for Ainz, declaring him an ally. Meanwhile, Momonga and Nave are confronting an approaching dust storm. The storm, as it turns out, is a gigantic basilisk being driven by Hamsuk. Just as the basilisk is about to run over the pair, Momonga beheads it and decides to return to Nazarick. Now donning his Ainz Ulgaun appearance, Momonga hovers above Nazarick, concealed with magic. He is greeted by Mare, who returns his ring of Ainz Ulgaun, which he uses to teleport to the 9th floor. Albedo greets her master in a seductive manner, causing Ainz to momentarily become shocked before his nervousness around women kicks in. Ainz then orders Albedo to discuss with him new information that he acquired from the Adventurers Guild. Ainz discusses what he has learned about the location of where Nazarick is situated and the surrounding locations and nations. Ainz questions the whereabouts of Shell-tier Bloodfallen, and the scene switches to a drunk vampire in Sue's chef's bar on the 9th floor. She has been depressed by her rebellion, though involuntarily believes it brings her loyalty to Ainz in question. They are greeted by Eclair, who attempts to cheer Shell-tier, but sinks her into a deeper depression. Back with Ainz, although Shell-tier has repented her time from being brainwashed by the enemy, Albedo still believes she deserves to be punished. Ainz considers her opinion, before turning his attention to a new area of interest, the Great Lake, where Cocytus is stationed. At the Great Lake, Zaryusu Shasha arrives at his fish farm where he finds his brother Shasryu Shasha. The two share a few words of discussion, Zaryusu thanking his brother for his help in making this farm possible. Shasryu turns to the topic on Zaryusu settling down, though Zaryusu is unsure due to his status as a traveler. Just as his brother leaves the village of Green Claw, he is visited by an undead that blots out the sky. It declares their doom to the lizardmen below. The lizardmen of Green Claw discuss what their response should be to the declaration of their extermination. After some debate, Zaryusu proclaims that because the messenger specified them as the second sacrifice, it implied that the other tribes were threatened as well. In the past, the lizardmen were at war with one another due to overpopulation and food shortages. Greenclaw formed an alliance with Razortail and Smallfang against the alliance of Yellow Speckle and Sharp Edge. Greenclaw and its allies were victorious, while Yellow Speckle and Sharp Edge were wiped out. The 5 tribes could ally with one another to form a large enough army to defeat their would-be destroyers. Many in the tribe do not believe it to be possible, as several of the surviving lizardmen from the defeated tribes were absorbed by the other tribes and may still hold a grudge against Greenclaw. and its allies. Shasryu Shasha concurs with Zaryusu's wisdom and appoints him as an emissary of Green Claw to gather the tribes of Red Eye and Dragon Tusk. In a private meeting between Zaryusu and his brother, it's revealed that one of Zaryusu's motivations for uniting the tribes to fight their new adversary is to reduce the population of the lizardmen in the wetlands. Years ago, there was a massive war among the lizardmen over resources due to their growing population. The war that caused two of the tribes to disband, and Zaryusu feels there is no way to avoid another war like that. When asked what he will do should the tribes refuse to join their alliance, Zaryusu replies that he will eliminate them first, before riding off with Rororo. The scene switches to the Great Tomb of Nazarick, where Demiurge asks where Ainz is, to which Eclair replies that Ainz would be spending time at a human village. Since Sebastian is away, Eclair has taken up all the butler's duties to compensate. The Penguin does not mind as he is motivated to work harder so that he may one day sit on the throne of Nazarick. Zaryusu arrives at Red Eye and is given an audience with the acting chieftain. Much to his surprise, the chief is an albino female who introduces herself as Krush Lulu. Krush's exoticism arouses him to the point he proposes to her on the spot. Her attraction to him also comes out. However, the two regain enough of their sense to address the more pressing matter, the threat of extermination. Krush explains Red Eye plans to evacuate the wetlands, though Zaryusu advises against it. He warns that the other tribes will retaliate should one of the other tribes tries to escape to a new habitat, and possibly might start another intertribal war. Taking note of the veiled threat, Krush reluctantly agrees to ally her tribe with Green Claw in face of extinction. When Zaryusu asks how her tribe managed to survive the shortage of food during the previous war, Krush is hesitant to say. In the end, she tells him in anguish of her tribe's desperate story of survival, resorting to cannibalism. Krush is ashamed of the past, though is comforted by Zaryusu. At the site of construction, the Great Forest of Top, Intoma Zeta gives Cocytus a series of scrolls to use for his upcoming campaign. Intoma herself has been ordered to monitor Cocytus's progress at Ainz's orders. With the alliance with Red Eye secured, Zaryusu's next destination is Dragon Tusk. He is joined by Krush and after arriving at Dragon Tusk's village are met with hostility. Sanvaru Gugu approaches them and demands a duel with Zaryusu. Sanvaru Gugu orders his tribe that he will duel Zaryusu Shasha. Should the latter win, he would be Dragon Tusk's new chieftain. Sanvaru is eager to fight against Zaryusu, seeing him as a top-grade warrior. Zaryusu agrees on the condition that Krush Lulu be spared should he fall. As the duel between the two progresses over time, Sanvaru manages to land a blow on Zaryusu, but he eventually loses due to exhaustion from one of Frostpane's abilities. After the match, Zenbaru later hosts a feast for the two. At the feast, Zenbaru pledges to have his tribe join the war against the Supreme One but asks if they can win. Zaryusu doesn't know yet. He feels as if the enemy possessing overwhelming strength were arrogant enough to deliver the warnings to the tribes. Zaryusu plans to exploit that arrogance when their forces clash, though Krush believes it's better to surrender and risk enslavement. Zaryusu counters that if they choose enslavement they may risk losing much more, but Krush believes it to be the best course. Despite their different views, Krush asks Zaryusu not to die, to which he complies, not until she gives him her answer. 4 days before the undead invasion, the trio then arrive at the village of Razor Tail, where the other remaining tribes have gathered. At the chieftain meeting, the chiefs decide to create a small elite unit composed of the chieftains. To compensate for the lack of leadership in the field, they designate the head warriors of each tribe to be the commanders. Cocytus orders his army to advance, whilst Ainz Ulgaun has been informed of the development. Back at the Great Lake, the undead army composed of skeletons, zombie beasts, etc. march to attack Razor Tail's village. Shasryu Shasho tells the gathered lizardmen not to waver in attack. The two armies engage, and thanks to the lizardmen's morale and preparation they are gaining the upper hand. Cocytus, seeing that he has underestimated his opponents, calls Demiurge for advice so as not to disgrace Ainz Ulgaun. Demiurge instead asks Cocytus to think of the various disadvantages that Ainz Ulgaun set him up with in leading this army. He proposes that perhaps winning is not the goal of Ainz, but instead reminds him that Ainz wishes to test Cocytus in thinking for himself. Before he could elaborate further, Demiurge apologizes and cuts the call. Faced with little options, Cocytus deploys Aiguva. The Elder Lake easily defeats the head warriors, causing the lizardmen in the battlefield to withdraw. The chieftains, seeing this obstacle from afar, deduce Aiguva to be the commander. Using Rororo as a shield, Zaryusu, Zenbaru, and Krush engage the undead close enough for them to attack him. The Elder Lake summons skeleton warriors to combat his opponents. While Zenbaru fought against the skeletons, Zaryusu and Krush faces off against Aiguva. After freeing Zaryusu from Aiguva's fear spell, Krush was attacked by the furious Lick. Zaryusu engages the Lick one-on-one. Unwilling to use Frostpane's area effect ability as his comrades were too close, Zaryusu instead creates a mist around him. Higuva, unable to see him, lowers his guard, allowing the lizardman to stab him in the skull. Higuva attempts to choke Zaryusu but succumbs to his wound. The death of Higuva signals the undead army's defeat and a victory for the lizardmen. Cocytus looks on in disbelief but also in admiration of the display. Intoma then informs him that Ainz wishes to speak to him. The lizardmen tribes are celebrating their victory over Higuva and the undead army. The chieftains discuss Frostpane's abilities and its wielder Zaryusu Shasha. Zenbaru Gugu decides to go wake Zaryusu, who is resting after the battle. Inside a hut, Zaryusu awakens and notices Krush wanting some sexy time with him but is interrupted by Zenbaru, who decides to leave the couple alone and allows them to get frisky with each other. Meanwhile, in the Great Tomb of Nazarick, Ainz holds a meeting with his guardians. He opens the meeting by welcoming and introducing Victim, guardian of the 8th floor, to the rest of the other guardians. Ainz tells Victim that he intends to use his special ability should a person attack them with a world item. Next, he turns to Demiurge. He asks about the sheep used to make scrolls. Demiurge gives them the name Abelian sheep and describes them as two-legged sheep beasts. Ainz, turning to Sheltier, who is still depressed over her rebellion. Sheltier begs for a punishment over it, which Ainz accepts and tells her that he will give her one later. Lastly, he turns to Cocytus, who apologizes for his defeat against the lizardmen. Ainz asks him why he lost, and Cocytus admits that he had underestimated his foes and lacked information on them as well as the land topography. He also states that the undead army lacked commanders to give orders on the battlefield. Ainz is impressed and delighted at what he said, but that he still needs to be punished for his defeat. Ainz orders Cocytus to exterminate the lizardmen alone as his punishment. However, he makes a request that the lizardmen be shown mercy, for which Albedo yells at him. Ainz orders her to be silent, and Cocytus states that the lizardmen are more beneficial to Nazarick alive rather than dead. He says that they are capable warriors and is against killing them for that reason. The idea is rejected at first initially, but Demiurge suggests an idea to Ainz that they can keep the lizardmen alive as an experiment to see if they can govern them without the use of fear. Ainz then accepts the idea and orders that Gargantua be activated, and then he calls the meeting to a close. After the meeting with their master came to an end, Cocytus thanks Demiurge for his idea. Ainz returns to his chambers happily and realizes that someone has sprayed perfume on his bed. Back at the Lizardmen village, another undead army is spotted across the Great Lake, and they notice the magical equipment that they carry. Krush then notices that a 6th-tier spell called Control Weather, which Zaryusu suggests is the power of the Great One. When the army clears a path for a skeleton wrapped in a black cloak, they notice him casting a powerful spell that freezes the wetlands solid, forcing the Lizardmen to retreat to higher ground. Zenbaru theorizes that he is the Great One based on his overwhelming power. They then watch a giant golem throw a cubed rock in the middle of the frozen lake. Then the skeletons form a staircase with their own bodies and a royal procession being formed as Ainz and his guardians walk up to the top of the cubed rock, and he sits on his throne. He sends messengers to the lizardmen asking them to send out a delegate to speak with him. Shasryu and Zaryusu go out to meet them. They introduce themselves, and Albedo orders Demiurge to make them bow down, which he uses his skills to force them to bow down. Ainz then informs them that if they manage to defeat Cocytus in 4 hours in battle, he will leave them alone. Shasryu attempts to surrender, but Ainz rejects it and leaves them after telling them that the ice will melt. He and his guardians exit by using a gate after bidding them farewell. After the meeting, the tribal chieftains meet and decide to call their warriors to arms. But Zaryusu wants only the 5 of them to fight so the last leader alive can represent the tribes after they die. When they decide Cruz should be the one to stay behind, she objects, but Zaryusu talks her into it. He embraces her once more before she then asks him to impregnate her. After teleporting from the Great Lake, Victim takes his leave from his master and the rest of the floor guardians to return to guard Nazarick. At the newly built base in the Great Forest of Tob, Aura apologizes for its shabbiness, but Ainz Ulgaun thinks it is satisfactory. Ainz also takes notice of a throne constructed out of bones, learning that it is a gift from Demiurge, who offers it to him. Ainz is hesitant to accept it and instead orders Sheltier to come forth and kneel to act as a chair for him. Although this act is supposed to serve as a punishment for her rebellion, the vampire, however, feels ecstasy and joy, while the other guardians, except Albedo, who wanted to be the chair for Ainz, praise Ainz's decision. While so, Ainz decides to observe how the lizardmen reacted to his ultimatum. He uses the mirror of remote viewing to observe their preparations. While shifting through the images, he comes across Zaryusu Shasha and Krush Lulu making love with each other. Ainz is shocked and quickly cancels the magic. Despite the rest of the Guardians being disgusted at their actions, Ainz quickly gives an explanation that the lizardmen are doing it to keep one's race alive from facing extinction. At dawn, Cocytus awaits the lizardmen. To start the impending duel, the Nazaric Elder Guarders start clanging their weapons and feet in a rhythmic beat. Zaryusu, the chieftains, and several lizardmen warriors watch as Cocytus easily slashes several trees. As the lizardmen charge at Cocytus, the Floor Guardian uses Frost Aura to encase most of the warriors in ice. The only ones left are the chieftains. Sakyu, Juju, and Kyukuzuzu lead the attack. Sakyu shoots at Cocytus with his slingshot while Kyuku continues the charge. Cocytus is protected by a shield, and thus is immune to long-range attacks. When Kyuku attempts to spear Cocytus, he is bisected by the god-slaying Emperor Blade. On the other hand, Zenryu attempts to use his martial arts against Cocytus, but his attacks are easily deflected. Zaryusu attempts to stab him with Frost Pain, but the Guardian catches the blade between his fingers. Afterwards, Sakyu tries attacking Cocytus again but to no avail. Seeing his attacks annoying, Cocytus uses piercing icicles and kills him. The next to fall is Zenryu when he tries to rush towards the Guardian, only to succeed in decapitating himself. Cocytus, seeing that only Shasaryu and Zaryusu are left, forcing them to survive for as long as they have. Cocytus, respecting his opponent, asks them to declare their names to him. After the introductions are done, Shasaryu uses magic to manipulate the mud to attack him, but are rebuffed by Cocytus's defenses. Later, Zaryusu uses Icy Burst to cloak the area and missed. The older brother attempts to strike Cocytus with his blade and is killed. Zaryusu is the last one to attack, to which Cocytus easily catches his blade once again. However, the blade begins slipping from Cocytus's grasp. Frostbane had been coated with blood, and as it slides closer to Cocytus's chest, he declares the tactic to be magnificent. Unfortunately, the blade is blocked by Cocytus's passive ability, and Zaryusu is later slain. Cocytus is praised by his master, who designates him as the ruler of the lizardmen. Cocytus asks what will be done with the slain lizardmen, to which Ainz responds that they will be used to create undead. However, Cocytus states that would be a waste, as the lizardmen possess a warrior's spirit that can contribute to Nazaric. Ainz, surprised at Cocytus's input, decides to accept it. Later, Cocytus then brings the last remaining chieftain, Krush Lulu, before Ainz. Being the lizardmen's representative, Krush declares the tribe's official surrender and allegiance to their ruler. Ainz offers Krush a chance to bring Zaryusu from the dead. But in return, the albino must act as Nazaric's spy amongst her people and be on the lookout for possible rebellion. Zaryusu awakens to find Krush hugging him and Ainz Olgaun commenting on his successful return from the dead. Zaryusu is weak, yet in awe by the revelation that Ainz possesses such power. Zaryusu and Krush prostrate themselves before Ainz, acknowledging him as a supreme being. Just as Ainz leaves, Zaryusu makes a request that his comrades be resurrected. Ainz considers the request and tells him to preserve the body. Zaryusu eventually succumbs to his ordeal and collapses in Krush's arms. Sebastian enters the Magician's Guild inside the city of Re-Estize. He asks the clerk about a spell in the directory, and the clerk tells him that it is a first-tier spell called Floating Board, which is used to transport items. Interested in the spell, Sebastian leaves after buying a magic scroll for that spell and walks outside the building. As he is walking through the alleyways, he spots a man throwing a sack out the door of his establishment. The man walks back into his house, so Sebas has Shadow Demon cut open the sacks not to determine if it is dangerous. Finding no danger, he begins to walk by it, but a badly bruised injured person grabs his ankle, forcing his attention. Sebastian sees that it is a woman that is inside the sack. The man who threw the sack out comes back and asks Sebas what he is doing. Irritated, Sebas pockets his scroll to then grab the man by the shirt, demanding to know who the woman is. The man states that she is one of his employees. Sebas decides to take her with him, but the man protests by saying that if Sebastian takes her, then he'll be killed by the criminal organization called Eight Fingers. Remembering his creator's motto, Sebas gives the man money to flee the country before taking the woman with him back to the mansion. Back at the mansion, Solution greets Sebas and notices that he is carrying a human. She asks Sebas about the severely injured woman, and he says that he found her and asks Solution to assess her condition. Solution inquires why he did not simply leave her for the temples. He makes an excuse and still has her treated. Sometime later, Solution returns and tells Sebas that the woman has syphilis and 2 other diseases, several cracked ribs and fingers, tendons in her arm and leg torn, her teeth had been forcefully pulled, an anal fissure. Seems like she really loves some rough love-making time. Sebas asks her to heal her, to which she hesitates at first, but ultimately complies. Sebas leaves to go buy food while Solution heals the woman. When Sebas returns with food, the woman is awake and fully healed. Sebas serves her the food which she thanks him for and eats quickly. Sebas informs the woman that he will protect her and comforts her when she cries. He then asks for her name. She says her name is Tuer and Sebas gives her his name. Sebas leaves to give Tuer time to rest. Meanwhile, Rain wakes up from a nightmare about Shell-Tier blood fallen. He goes downstairs to meet Gazef Stronov, who found him and brought him back to his house. Brain then tells Gazef that there are things stronger than both of them. At night, guards are patrolling a field when they are stabbed and turned into undead by Tia and Tina, and then they burn the field that is filled with drugs. Meanwhile, the Eight Fingers hold a meeting and discuss their business. Hilma Signius, leader of the drug trade department, is asked about one of her fields being attacked. She says that it might affect her distribution. Zero, head of the security department, offers to help guard the fields, but Hilmer refuses. Kakodol, head of the slave trade, asks Zero to do a task for him. He asks Zero to retrieve a woman who is supposed to be disposed of, which Zero accepts. Einz Wolgaun in his Momonga disguise is busy counting his pay earned from the adventurer quests he completed. Narbril Gamma arrives to report she has acquired the samples of ore which Einz plans to test using the exchange box. Climb is joined by Gazef Stronov, who offers to spar with him. The two parry blades with each other, however, Climb is no match for the warrior captain, becoming exhausted in the end. Climb is told he lacks talent but should continue to gain experience. For his hard work, Gazef gives Climb a potion to heal himself. As Climb leaves, Gazef tells his vice captain that Climb's power is capped at gold, thus limiting how much stronger he could be going forward. Climb returns to the palace and encounters Marquis Revan and Prince Zanuck. Zanuck sarcastically greets Climb, asking if he is going to see his sister, who he refers to as a monster. Climb is annoyed by Zanuck insulting his girl. He respectfully declares Renner to be compassionate. Zanuck still asks Climb to pass on a message to Renner. He warns that their older brother Barbaro plans on using Renner as a political marriage chip, whereas Zanuck offers, if Renner comes to his side, he will allow her to retire to the frontier once he becomes king. Climb arrives at Renner's chambers, where he finds her drinking tea with her friend, Lachius, who introduces him to Tina. There, Renner is shown the document Blue Roses retrieved from the raid on Eight Fingers drug plantation, and easily deciphers the message, determining it is a list of various locations throughout the capital city. It's believed that the locations are Eight Fingers affiliates, but Lachius notices the underground brothel isn't on the list. She proposes that Blue Rose is targeted and asks Climb to inform Tia, Evil Eye, and Gagarin of their findings. Meanwhile, Sebastian returns to the mansion and is greeted by Tuer serving as a maid. Seeing her nervousness, Sebas assures her that her cooking is delicious, causing her to blush. Solution asks Sebas if they should inform Ainz that they have accepted a human as a maid. At the end of their conversation, the mansion's front door is knocked on by two strangers. The two enter the mansion and introduce themselves as Stefan Hyvish, a patrol officer of the law, and Succulent, who is a representative filing a complaint against Lady Solution. Solution nonchalantly retires and orders her butler to handle it. During the talks, it's learned that Succulent is a representative of the brothel that claims that Sebas kidnapped one of their employees. Stefan warns Sebas that he will one day return the girl to Succulent. After they leave, Solution asks how he wishes to proceed. Sebas replies that he wishes to take a stroll. Once Sebas leaves the mansion, Solution decides to call Ainz. She reports that Sebastian may have gone rogue and confirms she has evidence to prove it. Climb heads to the inn where Gagarin and Evili are staying. He informs the duo that Lachius wants both of them to mobilize for a raid on a brothel housing slaves. They discuss power as they note Climb's trading, and mention Lachius Kilainura, which once belonged to the Black Knight of the 13 Heroes, which is demonic in nature. Gagarin also remembers the moments she walked in on Lachius debating with the blade, as she was fighting the dark influence to maintain control over it, but was more than strong enough to be responsible with it. As the conversation goes on, Evili informs the both of them of the new adventurer team, Warrior Momonga and Casternate, with the wise king of the forest as a pet, leaving Gagarin astounded by their reported feats. Climb wishes to be capable of such strength someday, but Evili advises him to go at his own pace, and not to lose his humanity in pursuit of power. Meanwhile, Rainunglaus is still living in the attic of Gazef's home and goes out to run errands for him, and goes past a crowd watching a group of drunk men assaulting a boy for simply bumping into them. Climb also goes by the crowd and moves to stop the matter, whereas Brain walks away, viewing it as not his problem. He turns when he notices Seba's incredible movements and goes to see the incident. Both witnesses Sebas move with skill and speed to resolve the matter in one punch. Climb moves in to give a healing potion to the boy and sees Sebas walking away. They separately follow the butler into an alleyway, where Climb enthusiastically asks Sebas for a quick lesson in string after witnessing him recently. Sebas examines his hands and sword, noting it is the young man's reserve weapon due to a slight ding on the blade edge. He sees Climb as trustworthy and decides to give him a lesson, how to overcome fear of death. By flooding Climb's senses with killing intent, Climb dodges at the last possible instance by overcoming his fear by thinking of Renner. Sebas congratulates Climb for surviving, as the shock alone would have killed him. When Climb asked who Sebas was, he merely said he was an old man who knew how to handle himself. Sebas, wanting to give another lesson, is interrupted by a panicked Brain, who, having witnessed this around the corner, is moved by Climb's ability to overcome intense fear and asks to also learn from Sebas. However, the trio are beset by 5 assassins sent by Succulent. Sebas downs 3 of them alone, leaving the last 2 to be handled by Brain and Climb. The young duo notes that Sebas' strength is incredible, maybe even beyond the power of Brain and Gazev combined. Sebas uses their fight as a teaching moment to instruct Climb to be aware of his fear to keep himself alive, and the boy musters strength to use the martial art, Slash, to incapacitate the last standing assassin, whereas Brain finished moments earlier. With their attackers down, Sebas uses a skill to easily interrogate one of them on where to find Succulent and 8 Fingers. Climb is sickened to learn criminals are finding loopholes in the law to keep slaves and wishes to aid his new comrades in storming the hideout. The trio move together out of a grown respect for each other, and they head for Succulent's brothel, which happens to be exactly the same place Sebas rescued Tuer from. Sebas, Brain and Climb arrive at the brothel and use 2 entryways, the front door to the main brothel, and the side entrance to the underground storage area. Climb and Brain take the latter door, while Sebas charges the front. Sebas forewarns the duo that if needed, he will kill the opposition inside. They both understand, only asking that the leaders of 8 Fingers, Crocodile and Succulent, must be captured alive. Sebas easily removes the steel door, knocks away the guards, and comes across Staff and Hyvish, mercilessly assaulting a slave girl for pleasure. Upon seeing the gruesome sight, Sebas intensely slaps Staffan into a bloody state, and after the constable pleads for mercy with money, Sebas concludes that he is unworthy of life and kicks him in half. Brain and Climb locate a trapdoor leading to the underground storage. While Brain scouts further, Climb stands watch, but encounters Crocodile and Succulent arrive by a hidden passage in front of him. Succulent uses his illusion magic to gravely injure Climb, until Brain returns and defeats him with his God/Slash technique. The trio are successful in apprehending the 2 members of 8 Fingers and return to their respective homes. Brain returns to Gazev's home and the 2 have dinner, discussing Climb's progress and Shell Tear Bloodfallen. Sebas returns to the manor, only for Solution to be in her Pleiades attire. Yeah, baby, I can't wait for, telling him that Ainz is waiting for him inside. Climb returns to Princess Renner, who is pleased that he is safe. After Climb retires for the night, Renner calls in the maid that she knows is spying on her to tell her about how amazing Climb was, only for her to actually plan on killing the maid for disrespecting Climb within her ears. Late at night, Zero gathers the remaining members of 6 Arms to search the perpetrators of the raid on the brothel for opposing the 8 Fingers. Sebastian is called before Ainz Olgaun, who has brought with him Demiurge, Victim, and Cocytus. Seeing Sebas sweating, Ainz tosses a handkerchief to his feet. Solution Epsilon brings Tuer per Ainz's orders. Demiurge readies to use controller magic on her, but Ainz permits her to stand of her own will as she is brave enough to look Ainz straight in the face. Given that Sebas was ordered to be discreet in his information gathering but has brought unwanted attention, Ainz will forgive him if he kills Tuer. Stunned by this order at first, he seriously attacks her as she readies herself for death and fully trusts him. Mid-attack, Cocytus blocks him as this was a test, confirming to Ainz that the attack was unquestionably a killing blow as ordered, proving Sebas' loyalty is unfeigned. Determining that enough information was gathered, Ainz declares the mission complete and leaves with Victim to Nazarick. Sebas does not offer an apology to Tuer, instead offering to petition his master for memory alteration magic for her to live peacefully among humans. However, she does not wish to leave, as her life was small and difficult. Even growing up, she was always hungry as the feudal lord of her land took most of the crops grown, leaving her people with next to nothing. But serving under him and his kindness, she wants to continue as a maid so long as she can still be with him. Sebas then decides to ask Ainz to allow Tuer to continue in his care as a maid in Nazarick, but only if she has no human world attachments. Tuer's only attachment is her little sister. Sebas goes to petition Ainz, and before he goes, Tuer kisses him. Sebas returns to the meeting room, teased by Demiurge for his flushed face. Ainz returns, asking if Demiurge is satisfied by the test. As Sebas wanted to override her memories, Demiurge proposes killing her for making certain no knowledge of them is leaked, which is rejected by Ainz, not wanting to kill needlessly with nothing to gain from it. When discussing where to have her, Sebas opts to have her serve as his maid, stunning the others in the room. As Sebas pleads his case, Demiurge is quick to point out the negatives of his decision. And as they argue, Momonger remembers Touch Me and Albert Elaine Otto arguing over which mission with the best drop rate to take on. Returning to the present, Cocytus interjects that the both of them stop arguing in front of Ainz, but he is happy for this nostalgic bickering. As he laughs, the same aura that quells him asserts, and he calmly asks for Tuer to return to pass his decision. When seeing her resemblance and hearing her full name, Ainz asks if she desires to move to the great tomb she would if Sebas were there. Ainz decides she will be a provisional maid, removing Sebas as the Pleiades leader, and activating Oriole Omega to take over. All sentries withdraw and Tuer is granted the protection of Ainz's name. Before their departure, Demiurge requests grain for the omnivore. Abelian sheep and Ainz has Sebas procure the supply from the capital. Alone, Demiurge asks if Ainz knew the girl, replying he knew her sister and has her diary which provided him with a greater knowledge of the new world. Feeling indebted and wanting to repay her kindness by protecting Tuer, Demiurge lastly requests Ainz to examine a location, under the belief it will bring benefit to Nazarick. The next morning, Sebas and Solution are off to acquire the grain for Demiurge, leaving Tuer alone to tend to the mansion. Elsewhere, Princess Renner holds a meeting on the Eight Fingers with the Blue Roses, as Climb helped capture Cocodol, head of the Slave Trade Division. Due to such a blow to the Syndicate, the raids are scheduled for the same day to attack Eight Fingers while they're still vulnerable. By day's end, Sebas and Solution return to the manor, finding a note by Six Arms that states that they took Tuer to their base, demanding Sebas come alone. Solution reminds Sebas of Ainz's decree, and the Pleiades message their master. As Ainz is preoccupied, he relays to Albedo to send support to Sebas. While she questions saving an inferior being like a human, Ainz had promised her his protection in his name, and demands support. Albedo relents and moves to send reinforcements for Demiurge to command on-site. After communications to Ainz and Albedo privately remarks her thoughts that his renaming of himself after the guild is ridiculous. The guild flag lies on the floor, having been replaced on the wall by the original Mamunga banner. Demiurge gathers the Pleiades, Mare, and Sheltier. Sebas leaves the room for them to discuss their mission to destroy Eight Fingers. Demiurge has Intoma display a holographic image of an individual that is off limits to all in the squadron, especially Sheltier, due to her bloodlust and habit of playing with her prey. Concluding his plan, Demiurge receives contact from a shadow demon that an 8th base has been located and sends Mare with Intoma to go there. Fearing that Ainz might grow weary of the floor guardians should they fail him again, Demiurge finalizes the operation and vows that failure is not an option. In the royal encampment, Climb applies a stealth coating to his mithril armor to move in the night. He gathers with other squad captains to hear the Blue Roses reviewing the plan for the raid on Eight Fingers. Gagarin greets Climb and Brain, who says Gagarin wanted to make sure Climb was safe with him. Brain and Gagarin joke about, and she leaves a positive impression on Brain. Arriving at one of the designated hideouts, Lockmeyer deactivates his invisibility to give a report. 5 members of Six Arms are inside, and a girl is held captive in a cell. Due to Six Arms being present, the group believes they should fall back, but stop as they see Sebas arriving. Both parties explain their situations and adjust the plan. Sebas will directly handle Six Arms and focus the security to the front door, while Climb, Brain, and Lockmeyer covertly infiltrate the stronghold. As Sebas enters the front gate, he is welcomed by 4, not 5, of the remaining 6 arms. Sebas asks if Zero is up there, and when they affirm it, Sebas points to Solution to scout the balcony. 6 arms, misinterpreting this gesture, states it will do him no good as they will make him suffer, whereas Sebas counters that if they attack him and all once, they may survive at least 10 seconds. As they introduce themselves, Sebas is immediately angered by Davernok's title of Undead King as he is an inferior undead, and instantly blows his head off, following with decapitating Edstrong, and punching Vishirian's head clean off, and finally killing the frightened Moundbest, causing a fright amidst the Eight Fingers subordinates. Solution relays to Sebas that Zero is not among the patrons on the balcony, and Sebas gives himself another 10 seconds to slaughter the henchmen. All the while, Brain, Climb, and Lockmeyer infiltrate the stronghold with no issues and reach the cell holding Tuer. Elsewhere, Helma wakes up from sleeping and finds her manor encased in shrubbery. Behind her stands Mare, who asks if she is the most important person in the manor. Hilma affirms this, trying to affectionately get answers from Mare, but as Mare is relieved to have found her, Hilma is frightened due to Intoma in a corner eating the twitching arm of one of her dead servants. Mare shatters her leg and drags her away by the hair, leaving Intoma to empty the manor of valuables. As Intoma snacks on the severed arm, Gagarin arrives behind her, asking what she's eating. Shocked at the sight, Gagarin readies to fight. While Intoma offers a parley, Gagarin cannot do so as an adventurer. When Gagarin shatters the ground, loose debris scuffs Entoma's attire, enraged at the disrespect of something granted to her by the supreme beings. Entoma fights seriously. She summons Bladebug and nearly kills Gagarin, but Tia arrives to save her. As the Blue Rose duo fight Entoma, they have difficulty with her array of insect-themed magics. Entoma replaces Bladebug with Whip Millipede and overpowers them until Evil-Eye arrives. Evil Eye offends Entoma for her appearance and says she's weaker than Evil Eye, causing the insectoid maid to go into a frenzied attack. Evil Eye frees Gagarin to heal Tia's wounds as she battles Entoma. When Entoma unleashes a swarm, Evil-Eye, seeing her magic similar to that of a demon god, uses Vermin Bane and poisons Entoma. Entoma's face falls off, and her lit bug dies, causing her original voice to assert, causing Gagarin to taunt her, sending Entoma with her true form into a bloodlust. Gagarin knocks Entoma away, but the clash between her armor and the maid uniform causes her concern. The trio then uses an onslaught of their strongest attacks and spells to wear Entoma down. With the maid out of stamina and no more bugs in her arsenal, Tia moves in for the kill. But Jaldabaoth appears to save Entoma and has her flown away by a carrier bug. Evil-Eye warns her comrades to flee with the utmost haste. But Jaldabaoth attacks and withstands each of Evil-Eye's magic. Using his Hellfire Wall, he hits Tia and Gagarin, killing them unintentionally, even offering condolences to Evil-Eye. He used the spell based on the standard of Evil-Eye's power but is surprised by the difference in their weakness. Enraged, Evil-Eye attacks but is unable to do any point of damage to the demon. Deciding to fight him, Evil-Eye is stopped when Momonga arrives, landing in between her and Jaldabaoth, and asks which one of them is his foe. As Momonga demands to know who his enemy is, Evil-Eye states her name and rank to identify herself as an ally, and requests a team-up. The two powerhouses clash, which stirs a heartbeat in Evil-Eye. A small parasite breaches his shoulder plate, but Momon brushes it off as insignificant. Momon takes Evil-Eye Fangirling in his arms to safety. Elsewhere in the royal capital, Brain, Climb and Lockmire escort Tuer from the holding cell. When they round a corner, they are trapped by Zero himself, who downs Lockmire with a punch to his chest. Seeing Brain in person, Zero offers mercy if Brain kneels and serves 6 arms. Brain deals with Zero but informs Climb and Lockmire that Tuer is succulent using illusion casting. As Brain fights Zero, his blade is deflected by Zero's fists. With Succulent using illusion clones, Lockmire uses an item to reveal the real one so Climb can attack. Climb uses his own martial art he learned from his training with Sebas and overpowers Succulent with a powerful kick to his groin. Zero offers a more powered battle with Brain. Both use their strongest techniques. As they dialogue, Sebas arrives, shocking Zero, who is in disbelief that his subordinates could have lost against an old geezer. Climb informs Sebas the Tuer they found was a fake, but the real Tuer is behind Sebas. Enraged, Zero pauses his battle with Brain to fight Sebas, using his strongest monk attack to strike Sebas' center mass. Sebas nonchalantly counters with a drop heel kick, caving Zero's head in, his dying breath and asking who Sebas really is. After Knave arrives at the manor, Evil-Eye gives a report of their encounter with the insect maid and how she nearly killed her. Evil-Eye then internally has the first girlish thoughts she had in centuries since being a vampire. Thinking over the recent events, Momon concludes Evil-Eye is not simply a child with an adamantite ranking. Momon offers to help carry her fallen friends, but Evil-Eye mentions that her team leader Lachius will be here shortly with her 5th tier resurrection magic raised dead, but the magic would cause her comrades to be unfit for combat for a time. As Momon would like to meet Lachius, Evil-Eye gets flustered over the idea. He diffuses the problem that he would like to meet a senior adventurer, leaving Evil-Eye flushed. As Sebas and the group exit the 8 Fingers base victorious, Climb asks what Sebas' next move is. The butler will take Tuer to a safe location to prevent a repeat of recent events. In the distance, Climb also sees the wall of flames. Everyone in the city of Riestize can see the flames, and Princess Renner calls for an emergency summit of adventurers. Lachius reports the fires to cause no damage, and there are demons on the other side. Renner informs the adventurers of Jaldabaoth and his power using one attack to kill 2 adamantite adventurers, making the battle against him all the more difficult. Evil-Eye presents Momonga to the summit, as he was able to fight Jaldabaoth on a relatively equal footing. Brain, Climb and Lockmire join a group to rescue civilians. After the summit, Gazef lends Climb his ring, with the power to boost his abilities, that he was given by Rigrid in the hopes he will return alive. Zanuck and Reven are with Renner looking at her plan, impressed by it. But the two point out that Climb is likely to die. Renner is aware of this, as if he does, Lachius can resurrect him. And in his weakened state, Renner can keep him close and in her loving care. In affirmation, Renner shows her true face, disturbing both her brother and the Marquis. As Prince Zanuck rallies the citizens, Momonga is dropped in by Nabe and Evili and gets rid of the monsters. Brain, Climb and Lockmire use the Battle of the Adventurers and Demons to investigate the warehouse area for captured civilians. Sheltier is unable to remember Brain due to her resurrection, but Brain takes it as she can't remember him since she views him as insignificant. Brain uses his field martial art, and Sheltier walks into it. But this time Brain aims for and cuts her fingernail with fourfold slash of life, a weakened version of Gaze of Stranoff's sixfold slash of light. While Sheltier is mildly impressed, calling him a nail clipper, Brain is overjoyed, realizing he has reached a new level of strength from having his friends in his heart. He then runs, but Sheltier notices Climb and Lockmire, remembering the order Demiurge gave her, so she lets them run away. As Momonga, Nabe, and Evili reach Jaldabaoth, they see his 5 masked demon mates. While the female adventurers handle the maids, Momonga battles Jaldabaoth. Evili fights Alpha and Delta, while Nabe fights Beta, Epsilon, and Zeta. Deploying a mini sandstorm, Evil Eye is surprised that the demon maids know how to team up and reinforce each other. Alpha, unfazed by the sand, finds and attacks Evili, cracking her mask. Evil Eye, seeing the 2 maids she fights are resistant to all her stun attacks, gets airborne to rethink her strategy. Elsewhere, Demiurge and Ainz speak in private in an abandoned building to discuss Demiurge's 4-part plan. The plan involved covertly stealing goods and raw materials from Re-Estais, masking retaliation against 8 Fingers by framing them for summoning Jaldabaoth with a prototype of the Armageddon Evil statue, taking captured humans for experimentation, and placing blame on Jaldabaoth to boost Mamon's reputation as an adventurer. Ainz orders Demiurge to grant respectful captives a merciful end. Evili regroups with Nabe, and Jaldabaoth is thrust into the scene. Momonga, now finally getting to fight seriously, battles the demon. While airborne, Momonga uses a fire item and attacks right at the demon, but his right-handed blade is destroyed by hell flames. Seeing a chance to use a new weapon, Momonga deploys his frost pain modified and nullifies Jaldabaoth's hell flames. Jaldabaoth calls for a retreat and wishes to end their battle. Evil Eye is against it, but Momonga agrees. The demon takes his leave, and with that, the disturbance comes to an end. Overjoyed, Evili jumps and hugs Momonga for defeating and repelling Jaldabaoth. The next day, Momon and Nabe depart for Erantal, with Marquis Revan thanking them for their service. Elsewhere, Aura decrees that the remaining 8 Fingers operatives are now servants to Ainz Ul Gaun. At night, Blue Rose and Brain are having a meal together in the tavern, while Evili's friends recount how Rigrid humiliated her in combat to make her join. Gagarin then remembers that Evil Eye can teleport, and if she had gone with Momonga in the morning to Erantal, she could have established a fast travel point and visit him whenever she wanted. Evil Eye realizes this and freaks out. Back in Nazarick, Pistonia introduces Tuer to the homunculus maids as a recruit. Ainz returns to Nazarick and sits on his throne. Meanwhile, in the Baharuth Empire, Fluter Paradine informs Emperor Jerkn of Rune Farlord El Nix that, on his investigation of Ainz Ul Gaun, he concludes the magic caster is greater than or equal to his level of magical power.